You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Zach Bechtold and Matt Franks. If you'd like to learn more about the Bearded Theologians, you can go online at beardedtheologians.com, where we have past podcasts, blogs, and a couple items for sale. So check us out, beardedtheologians.com. Thank you for listening, and enjoy this week's show. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold.
So this week on the podcast, we're going to dive into good old Psalm 15, one of the lesser probably read psalms in the church. It'll be interesting to see if anybody's preaching on it, and if you are, please send us your manuscript. It'd be interesting to see what you preach on. I guess this is an interesting psalm, and so Zach, as you look at the psalm, what speaks to you?
Well, it's a pretty quick psalm. It's five verses, so I'll go ahead and read it for context. O Lord, who may abide in your tent, who will dwell on your holy hill, those who walk blameless and do what is right and speak the truth from their heart, who do not slander with their tongue and who do no evil to their friends, nor take up reproach against their neighbors, in whose eyes the wicked are despised, but who honor those who fear the Lord, who stand by their oath even in their hurt, who do not lend money at interest and do not take a bribe against the innocent. Those who do these things shall never be moved. You're right. This is a fascinating psalm that probably doesn't get enough teaching or preaching time or really any time because it's just one of the lesser known ones. But there's a lot there. And essentially just at the core value, at face value, it's life standards. This is how you treat people. You speak truth. You don't slander people. You don't do evil or you do no harm to folks. You don't look at your neighbor and say, hey, you're not picking fights, things like that. And it just continues on about how you treat people. You could really easily preach this and point back to the 3 simple rules really, really quickly and do no harm, do good, and stay in love with God. With this verse, it's all right there, and simply just treat people well. Don't take advantage of them, and just be good. I like that. There's a lot there. You're right. You could preach on this pretty easily.
Well, so one of the fun things that the Wesleyan Study Bible says, it labels it as a prescription for holiness. And I think that's kind of a cool, like, if you don't have your sermon on Saturday, here's your sermon title right there, a prescription for holiness. And obviously the writer lays down some good examples of what to do to really, you're right, Zach, I think the 3 simple rules would definitely lean into this a lot, really well. And the other thing I found really funny is that in the study notes from the Wesleyan Study Bible, it said, holy living has palpable economic ramifications. And we think about how we treat people and how sometimes we make decisions, whether it's the use of our money and everything that we do, and has potential of causing the greatest good and the greatest harm. And how we go about that it can be a tricky thing in this day and age. We talk about we talk about how we spend our money and trying not to do harm with our money, and yet we find ourselves stuck. When we find out that maybe something we're giving to isn't really doing what it should be doing, and then makes you less willing to help and to give.
Sure. Well, and where I have heard this verse preached, it tends to lean on verse 5, at least the first part of it. Don't lend your money at interest. And people like to say, well, don't take loans and don't give people loans and blah, blah, blah. We're not supposed to be doing that. And really what it is to give without expecting anything in return, right? That's the important part of this. It's not don't give loans, don't take loans, it's give without holding it over somebody's head. Give without expecting something in return. Because that's a different way of giving than saying, well, you're going to pay me back and you're going to pay me back with interest and blah, blah, blah. It's saying, no, here, I'm giving from the heart. I'm giving because you need this. And my expectation is nothing in return. And that's, that feeds into this holy living, to these life standards, to here's how you treat people. Here's how you share God's love and grace in doing some of these things that are good, and then not doing some of these things that bring harm into the world.
And I like the symmetry of verse 3 and then verse, for those who do no damage with their talk, do no harm to a friend, doesn't insult a neighbor, and then they flip it and they say, here are the other 3 things you shouldn't do. Someone who despises those who act wickedly, honors. And I think that the reminder of this, if I were preaching this week, would be is, what standard do we hold ourselves to, and how do we live into the standard when we say, Methodists tend to agree that, the 3 simple rules are important, but then when we look at how we handle ourselves, do we really answer those questions? Are we doing good? Are we doing no harm? Are we doing all that we can to stay in love with God? And, we could definitely point to some areas where that's not necessarily happening right now. And right. I think holding us accountable to those rules is healthy, but being aware where we fall short and how we can actually grow into that, I think would be vital in our faith growth.
And I think that's where Psalms like this come into the conversation more of, hey, this is what we need to be doing to be holy. But it rather than asking ourselves the question of using this as a benchmark of where do I need to get better? When I read this and evaluate my life and my actions and the things that I've done and said, where maybe have I not spoken truth? Where have maybe I've talked crap about somebody else, or where maybe have I given where I expected something in return? Maybe that's the different question, right? Rather than saying, oh, I got to do these things. How am I doing these things? Or how have I not done these things? And using that to say, here's how we're moving towards holiness. Here's how we're moving towards perfection. And here's where I can get better.
Yeah, and I think that would be a good thing to wrestle with
I think so.
This week as we're going through that. And, challenge ourselves to do that. And to, I really do think that just attempting to live by those 3 simple rules challenges us to grow and challenges us to pay attention and just challenges us. And that's what we need really to grow.
I think that's the thing. I think it's the attention, right? That we're paying attention to ourselves and the world around us and how we can get better.
So I want to encourage you to go to our website at beardedtheologians.com and check out all of our great content, and feel free to click on the buy stuff thing link and pick up a couple of things. Just check us out at beardedtheologians.com. So for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians Beardcast. If you'd like to learn more about the Bearded Theologians or look at our other content, go online at beardedtheologians.com. And also don't forget to pick up one of those beautiful coffee mugs or t-shirts that we have on our website as well.